This is the 11th presentation for 2009 Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. I so appreciate you being here. I can't tell you enough how, how humbled and grateful I am that you will come and listen to me and partake in getting some of this information. And honestly, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here. So I just want you to know how much I appreciate you being here. Well, this is the 11th presentation. We've done all kinds of different presentations: diabetes and osteoporosis and heart disease and cancer and how to eat and how diets don't work and just a whole lot of different things. Tonight we're going to talk about 10 age-defying secrets to reverse the downward spiral, which most people believe that can't happen. I happen to know it can happen, especially if you put your mind to it. But you know, it's the whole thing. You have to put your mind to it. So my hope is that when we get done, I sort of have an ambition tonight. My ambition tonight is by the time we get done, you can start thinking about this right now because I'm going to ask you to write it down. We're going to do a little fun little interactive thing here. But I'm hoping that you can say to yourself, my purpose in life is. So by the time we get done tonight, now you can't think about the whole time because then you're going to miss all these little tidbits I'm going to give you. So I'm hoping by the time we're done, you can ask and answer that question. What is your purpose in life? What is your purpose? Because you know what? If you know your purpose, then you really will want to be here to fulfill your purpose. And if you want to be here to fulfill your purpose, then you may start doing things or continue to do those things that will help extend your life, but not only add days to your life, but add life to your days. Yes, we have control over how long we live, but what we really do have control over is how well we live during the time we're here. Because a lot of us have already done, let's face it, damage. And some of the damage is irreparable, even though some of it is repairable. But the bottom line is we can still live better for the days that we're here. And I know that's why you're here. You're here because you know that, and you have the hope that you can do that too. And I know a lot of you, and I know that a lot of you are already on that path. And this is just a reminder to stay on that path. Or if we get off, how do we just hop back on that path? Because we only live once. Well, as far as I know, I guess I really don't know. We only live once, so let's make amazing, good opportunities and experiences for ourselves while we're in this life. I had a dear friend who died probably about, I think it was about 15 years ago, and she died when she was 82 years old. So I was quite a bit younger than her, as you can guess. Her name was Jeanette, and it's just one of those things, and I think you can relate to this. She was much older than me, but she was just so wise and spunky and spirited, and she was my mentor, and she taught me so much about life and how to appreciate life and how to be grateful and how to treat other people and how to have spunk and spirit even if you hurt all the time. And she said to me, Leslie, you have no idea the potential that you have. She said, you have no idea the potential you have. You've only seen the tip of the iceberg. You wait. As you get older and older, you'll have more and more impact on people's lives. And at the time, I had little kids. I was newly divorced. It was before I was divorced and newly divorced, so I was barely keeping my own head above the water and working and practicing and those kinds of things. And then she died. And I remember, I think it was about 3 or 4 days before she died is when I saw her last, and I said, Jeanette, I'm not ready for you to go. Because she was the first person that believed in me before I believed in myself. I didn't even know there was something to believe in. My brain hadn't gotten that far. I was just busy taking care of kids and taking care of my practice. And so literally, she's the first person who believed in me before I believed in myself and articulated it. And I said, Jeanette, I'm not ready for you to go. And she said, oh, Leslie, don't be so silly. She says, I can take care of you way better beyond than I can here. And she says, and besides that, you don't need me anymore. And I have pictures of her up in my bedroom, black and white photos of her up in my bedroom when she was an aspiring actress, when she was in her 20s. And I talk to her every day, and I always hope that she's looking down. And I have to say that I miss her more now than I did then. I think I was busy then. I didn't miss her as much, but now I miss her a lot. So anyway, as we age, we get older, and we get wiser, and we just collect so much knowledge. Can you imagine the collective information and wisdom that we have in this room? But unfortunately, in this culture, we don't revere people as they get older. In fact, we make fun of them. We discuss among family members what to do with our elders as they get older. But the bottom line is, our older folks are the ones that have gained all this experience and all this knowledge and all this wisdom. And unfortunately, in this country, what do? We sort of shut them up. I don't mean shut them up, their mouths up. I mean, we sort of shut them up and confine them, and we put them in individual apartments and homes and assisted living places, rather than having a community where our older folks can join with the younger folks, and they can help the younger folks. And I'm talking about babies and children and teenagers. And it's just too bad our culture's not like that. Because in the cultures that are like that, where everybody cares for each other and everybody works together to help each other, those are the cultures where the people live the longest. And yes, they're more rural and they're up their mountains and they eat, way better than us, and they exercise. But the biggest thing I think is that older people, as they get older, they always have a sense of purpose. That's why I want you, when you leave, I want you to write down, what is my sense of purpose? Why am I on this planet? Because you are not here for no reason. You are here for a specific reason, but you have to know it. And as you know your sense of purpose, what happens is what? Then you have a reason to live. And if it's a bigger purpose than yourself, then you have a reason to live. If you have a reason to live, one more time, then you have a reason to take those baby steps you need to take in order to take care of yourself and your bodies so that you can live as long as you possibly can, and then leave, and leave gracefully. In this country, we've lost touch with giving reverence to our older people. In this country, we call it old age. In other cultures, like the Abkhazians, who live in the Republic of Georgia in former USSR, they don't even have the word old age. It's not even in their dictionary. You know what they call people who have lived longer? Long-lived. And they even have a holiday every year where they celebrate the long-living people. Now, isn't that a different attitude than the attitude we have? And it can't help but creep into our brains and be insidious. And then as we get older, our self-esteem goes down, which is a kind of a really sad thing, because as it is, we women especially, we struggle with our self-esteem. And then as we get older, my goodness, if we don't have it by the time as we're reaching our more mature levels, then you know what? Our self-esteem gets worse. And I've seen it over and over and over again. I like to read this poem. It's by Samuel Ullman. It's called Youth. Youth is not a time of life. It is a state of mind. It is not a matter of rosy cheeks, red lips, supple knees. It is a matter of the will, a quality of the imagination, vigor of emotions. It is the freshness of the deep springs of life. Youth means a temperamental predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the love of ease. This often exists in an adult of 60 more than a child of 20. Nobody grows old merely by a number of years. We grow old by deserting our ideals. Years may wrinkle the skin, but to give up enthusiasm wrinkles the soul. Worry, fear, self-distrust bows the heart and turns the spirit back to dust. Whether 60 or 16, there is in every human being's heart the lure of wonder, the unfailing childlike appetite of what's next. In the center of your heart and my heart, there is a wireless station. In the center of your heart and my heart, there's a wireless station. So long as it receives messages of beauty, hope, cheer, courage, and power from people and from the infinite, so long are you young. So long as it receives messages of beauty, hope, cheer, courage, and power from people and from the infinite, so long are you young. That's what youth is. And we can be youthful no matter if we're 20 years old, if we're 90 years old. Isn't that beautiful? I have that in your packet, actually. I have the foresight to actually put that in your packet. Oh, I didn't put this up here. Aging is a transformational process as full of wonder and beauty as any other stage of the human journey. It's just a part of the human journey. And it is a wonderful time of living. So we need to step back and look at that and appreciate that for what that is. In the United States of America, we spend more on health care than any other nation on earth. As a matter of fact, we spend almost half as much as the entire world does on health care, which is really disease care. Now, because we live in such a rich, snobby country, and we have all the answers with the hospitals and the technology and the doctors and all this information and having the best health care system in the world, and we'll soon find out what happens to that system as the health care debate goes on, one would think that we would have the longest longevity in the world. Do you think we do? No, we are 26th. We are pathetic 26th. So if you want to live longer, there's many other countries that you can live in to live longer. But don't bring your bad habits with you. If you bring your bad habits with you, you will not live as long as the people in that country. We're talking about common countries like France and Spain and Italy and Switzerland and Japan and Malta and Singapore and Canada. They have a better statistic than we do. We don't even have to look at the statistics. If you look at the average American, if you went up to most Americans on the street and they were honest with you and you said to them, maybe I'm going to ask Charlie. No, I'm just kidding. If you went up to them in the street and said, Charlie, how do you feel tonight?
Tired.
Ha! You got that right. And we did it beforehand. We figured it all out. Most people would say they're tired and or hungry because so many people are dieting and they're not eating enough food. So most people would say they're tired. We're not supposed to be tired. When we're tired, yes, then we go to sleep. But during our waking hours, we're not supposed to be tired. Yes, you could take a nap if you feel tired in the afternoon, but the rest of the time, we're supposed to be awake. Right, Charlie? Yes, we're supposed to be awake. But most of us are tired. Shouldn't be. In the United States, no matter how rich we are, we know that what? You have to earn your health. You cannot buy it. I don't care how rich somebody is, how rich the country is. We cannot buy our health. We have to earn that. And we have to earn that from the time we're little. And some of us just haven't done that because of the way we were trained and conditioned, the way we were brought up to eat and not exercise and those kinds of things. But it's never, ever too late. So we need to start. But we can't waste much time because, we don't have as much time as we used to have when we were children. So we need to get on the ball now if we make the choice to what? Live better and to live longer. So I'm going to first, you'll see your handout. Yep, you're in there. This is pink. Get your pink. It says 10 age-defying secrets, reverse a downward spiral. Don't put your noses totally down in here. I just want you to know that those myths that we're going to go over are right here too. So you can listen to me, and then you can bring this home, and then you look at it again. Because the more you listen, and the more you bring it home, and the more it goes into your head, and then if you actually tell somebody about it, if you teach somebody about it, then it really becomes a part of you more. So, you know, just keep working at this thing, and you'll get it. All of a sudden you'll get it. But myth number one is we believe in this country that people are living a lot longer than they used to. Isn't that true? Don't you hear that almost every day? You hear it in the media, you hear from doctors, you hear from each other, that people are living so much longer than they used to. Do you know that if you reach the age of 45 years old, and the people back 100 years ago reached the age of 45 years old, that our lifespan is only 6 more years? Do you understand what I'm saying? In other words, if you reach 45 years old, you take 2 people. One person reached 45 years old now, and one person reached 45 years old 100 years ago. We only live, this person here is only going to live, average, 6 years longer than the person over here. But listen to this. And I got that from this book. This book here. This is a good book. This is a good book. This is a good book to get. It's called the McDougall Program. Video. McDougall Program. And then this is a statistic in this book. This is the Methuselah Factor. This is a very good book, too. This is just to show you that I didn't make this stuff up. I'm not smart enough to make stuff up. I am not that smart. I'm a good cheerleader. I'm good at putting information together and making it simple. And the reason why I make it simple, like in my book, is because, why do you think? I'm simple. So in order for me to understand something, I have to get this information, then I have to synthesize it and make it water it down, and make it simple so that I can understand it. And so that's why, so in that way, it's understandable. But in that book, it says this: if you live to the age of 60 years old, you have no more chance of living longer than those people that reach 60 at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Is that astounding? Do you know why? Our numbers are bigger. See, our numbers are bigger. We have more people. But back then, what did they die of? From childbirth, children died, infectious diseases, accidents. You know, they didn't have the antibiotics. So that, they didn't have the sanitation. See, so they died, a lot of people died when they were very young. But if they actually reach the age of 60 years old, our life expectancy is no longer now than it was then. Why? Because we're killing ourselves. At least they didn't kill themselves necessarily, unless it was an accident. We're killing ourselves with what we eat and our daily activities, or lack thereof, of exercise, and other kinds of things too. So this is an important concept to get. So once you reach a certain age, we're not living any longer than we did years and years and years ago, hundreds of years ago. So myth number 2. Americans age normally. We live in Sequim, which is a retirement community. I've practiced in Sequim for over 30 years now. And so I've worked with older people for all of my practice. And I hear people saying constantly that, oh, this person's 75 years old, this person's 80 years old. And we think that if a person in the United States reaches 80 years old and they can barely get out of bed in the morning, or they can barely sit in their chair and click their clicker to turn the channels, we think that that's old. We think that's a ripe old age at 80 years old. But from the beginning of time, the gerontologists, who are the experts in aging, they tell us that our life span, potential for living, has not changed from the beginning of humankind. It's consistent. From the beginning of mankind, millions of years ago to now, our potential for living a certain many years has not changed, which I think is so fascinating. And so Americans age normally. So to a scenario, a true scenario actually, a 75-year-old man who lives in the northern seas, in that area, sees that a ship has gone down, or is going down, and it's in a gale, and he rows in the northern sea in order to save the sailors that he can save. And he's able to do that. He's able to row there and row back, however long that is. A 75-year-old. A 75-year-old in the United States, sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes it's difficult to get out of bed in the morning, it's difficult to get out of the chair, it's difficult to carry on activities. The question is the American aging normally, or is the man who can row at 75 years old in a gale storm, is he just an exceptional person? The gerontologists say Americans age prematurely. So the older we get, the farther away is our chronological age compared to our biological age. The American male and female, they're so many years old, let's say they're 80 years old, while biologically they're much older than that, unfortunately. It's just the way it is. So there are many, 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 many cultures that in their own way have really very long-lived people. And unfortunately, we're not one of them. But I like to look at Squim. I mean, just look in this room. I mean, we have some people here that are amazing good shape. So we don't have to necessarily go far away to find long-lived people who've really done a lot of really good things for their life. Like Bob Massey, I wouldn't tell his age, but he's on the radio 7 days a week, 3 hours a day, every day. Should I tell him your age, Bob? No. I can?
Oh, yes.
Is it 83? 84. And Bob's 84 years old.
85.
And soon to be 85. So that's incredible, isn't it? So I don't want to put anybody else on the spot. I'll just put Bob on the spot. But we have incredible people in this community as well. This is a magazine, National Geographic. This came out in 2005. And it's all about what? How different cultures have aged well. This is a man, he's 84 years old. He's standing on his head. He's from Okinawa. Isn't that amazing? I'm just going to show you a couple of these pictures. Here he is again, from Okinawa. Here's this woman here. I love this woman. Where is she? Well, here's a man here. This man is 76 years old. He is from someplace in Italy. And look at what he's doing. He works every day. He's a sheep herder. And he works every day. He's from Sardinia. And look at this woman, 89 years old. What's she doing? Harvesting algae, which she eats. So she does that almost every day. 89 years old. Honestly, look at this woman. This woman is 107. 107. Can you imagine the wisdom that this woman's got? I mean, I would love to just be able to talk to her if she's still alive. That's one of my dreams, by the way. This woman is 102, I believe. Yes, 102. And if you look at her, she looks like she's 80. She looks excellent. Here's another one. This woman is 100 years old. She doesn't even have all gray hair yet. 100 years old. That's incredible. This man here, 104 years old, from Okinawa. You see the difference between Americans and them? And I have to read you this little joke. I'm horrible at telling jokes. I really am, so I have to read it. But I want to show you this man, too. He is like over 100 years old, too. 102 years old. Look at him. He was in Newsweek. I got this probably a couple years ago. 85% less likely to die from breast cancer, the Okinawans. 85% less likely. 88% less likely to die from prostate cancer. 70% less likely to die from ovarian cancer, and 70% less likely to die from colon cancer. Heart disease is almost non-existent. Almost non-existent, and it kills more people than anything else does in our country. Even at an old age, they have clean arteries. I think it's incredible. Do they eat different than us? Oh, yeah. Okay, here's my little joke. I got this from, I don't remember where I got this. Oh, I got this from Health at 100, John Robbins. Healthy at 100, John Robbins. A very elderly gentleman was sitting on an Okinawan bus. The bus was crowded, and people were standing in the aisles. The elder noticed a pretty girl standing in front of him. Chivalrously, he offered her his seat. I know I'm an old man, but I would be pleased if you would take my seat. Thank you, she said with a smile, but I don't mind standing. The bus continued along its jerky way until it stopped abruptly, throwing the standees about, with a young woman landing on top of the elder gentleman. As they disentangled, the man offered again, I don't want to see you tossed about. If you won't take my seat, why don't you just sit on my lap? So there won't be so much crowding. She smiled and perched herself on his lap. Can you imagine? She smiled and perched herself on his lap. The bus bumped along its route. After a minute or so, the elder Okinawan gentleman tapped the young lady on the shoulder. Young lady, he said, I think you had better stand up because I'm not as old as I thought I was. That's the only way I can get you laughing, if I read it. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Here's another myth. Longevity is beyond our control. Longevity is not beyond our control. There's 3 cultures that I want to mention. The Abkhazians, which I mentioned in the Republic of Georgia, they're known for very long-lived people. Super centurions, which means they live longer than 100 years. We're talking about 105, 110. The longest lived person in this country was 113 years old, which I think is pretty amazing. There's another group, the Hunzas. The Hunzas are in northern Pakistan, and they were also known for having really long-lived people. Things have changed, by the way. I think our culture has infiltrated into even probably those remote places in some ways. And then there's another group of people. They're in the Andes in Ecuador, and they're called the Vilcabamba. That's the village. I can't even say it. But listen to this. The people have no heart disease. They have no cancer. They have no diabetes. They have no stroke. They have no cirrhosis. They have no senility. They have no arterial sclerosis, nor any morbid conditions connected with an interruption of blood flow that are commonly responsible for illness, disability, and death among industrialized people. Are those people genetically superior to us? Absolutely not. They're just living stellar lives. Is that almost impossible in this country? Oh, yeah. We can't live like they live, and I know who wants to. I mean, I like it here, but we certainly can do better than what we're doing. We certainly can do better than what we're doing. Let's go to here. Another myth. Aging equals pain, disability, and disease. I often hear people say to me, well, I don't want to live to 100 years old. Look at the people that live to 100 years old. They're sick, they're disabled, they're in pain, they can't do things, they have no activity. So there's been a lot of people who've said to me, I don't want to live until 100 years old. I want to live until 110 years old. I like life. Now, I want to be able to live that well with activity and with my mind and all my faculties. And is that going to happen accidentally? No. We have to consciously do that in the United States of America because we're constantly barraged by a tide of what? Bad habits. And right now, we're right in the middle of the holidays, so it's really easy to really be barraged by what? Bad habits. But nobody forces us to eat the way everybody else eats. It's really hard not to because we're really hooked into those foods emotionally and physically, and we're hooked into the holidays and partake in all the celebration. And we think we have to eat in order to celebrate. Not necessarily so. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just helping you try to become aware of what our culture has become. And one of these radio interviews, somebody said to me, well, you know, holidays are all about food. Isn't it really hard to get through holidays without eating what everybody else is eating? I said, you know, it might be hard, but it's a lot harder to fight with your weight in January. I mean, that's something that's very real. Or as we partake year after year after year, fight with cancer and chemotherapy and surgery. That seems a lot harder to me, doesn't it? So, you know, it's all relative. We are pretty darn spoiled, and we want what we want when we want it. But we need to think about we need to connect into what we're doing right now. What are the choices we're making right now that have consequences now, because it does affect our energy. It does affect your attitude. It does affect your emotions. It does affect you mentally. It affects you in every way. But not only that, it doesn't just affect you right now, but it's going to affect you more and more as time goes on, especially when we make choices that aren't so good for us time after time after time after time after time. You know what? I've made enough of those bad choices back then. I don't want to make those bad choices anymore. The thing that really gives us empowerment is not doing what everybody else does. Can you tell I'm a little bit of a rebel? It's not doing what everybody else does, but it's doing what you know is right for you. It's doing what you know is right for you. I don't care what your spouse says. I don't care what your mother taught you. I don't care what your grandmother told you to do. I don't care what your children tell you to do now, or your grandchildren. Doing what's right for you gives you a sense of empowerment, and once you have that sense of centeredness and empowerment, you know what? It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And you know what? Everybody is, think about it. If someone comes to you and says, you know, I'm eating like this because this is the right thing for me, are you going to stand in their way? Are you going to mock them? Are you going to give them a hard time? Would any of you do that? No. Well, are the people in our own circle, they're not going to do that either. So if we're solid in our beliefs and what we want to do for ourselves and having the best life we can possibly have until we're not here anymore, no one is going to get in your way. When I sit on an airplane and I'm doing my work and someone happens to see my book or that I'm doing something, then they talk to me about food. And then they'll ask the most common question. The most common question is what? If you don't eat meat, where do you get your protein? That's absolutely it. And so they'll say that. It's really interesting. It's predictable. If you don't eat meat, where do you get your protein? And I look them right in the eye, and I go, do you really want to go there? I guarantee you half of them say no. And I'm happy, and I go back to my work. But if they say yes, then I hit them with it, because they get a sense that fast that I know myself and I'm convicted in what I'm doing. I was at a seminar a couple weekends ago, and everybody sort of eats together, and I was eating next to this man, and I went through the thing I always go through because it's such a pain. I agree. I find out, I have to ask the waitress what kinds of foods you have and what are your salads like and how big are your salads. All the salads are really big, and then the salad comes out this big. And does it have cheese on it? And what kind of vegetables do you have in the kitchen? What kind of vegetables can you put on the salad? Yes, I go through this every time. I think my kids want to crawl under the table. And so I go through that, and then this guy next to me, who I had just met because I didn't know him, he looks at the waitress and says, I'm going to do what she does. You give me what she ordered. And I looked at him like, what are you doing that for? I didn't say anything, but I felt like saying, what are you doing that for? You know what? It's been, it's been like 3.5 weeks. He called me up. He's lost 20 pounds in 3 weeks because he wanted to do what I wanted to do. Did I ever say a word to him? Never. But for whatever reason, things sort of work together in the divine way that things work together, and he decided to make a change right then. Had he done some work on himself? Oh, yes, for 20 years. Does that sound familiar? Oh, yes. For 20 years, he's been trying to lose weight, and he never could lose weight. And all of a sudden, he had someone, he said, I've read books, and it makes sense. And he said, but I looked at these vegetarians, and vegetarians are really holier than thou. And besides that, they don't look very healthy, but you look the part. So I'm just going to do what you do. I want to be as thin as you. He's this big, hulky guy. He's about this big. He's about this tall. I'm thinking, oh, yeah, he's going to look exactly like me. But in a very short period of time, he's lost 20 pounds. See what can happen just by being a role model. But you have to get centered in yourself first. You're not doing it for anybody else. You do it for yourself. And then you can truly start influencing other people. So this does not have to be. Yes, it's that way in our country, but it doesn't have to be that way. This is a group of people, the Abkhazians, that I said in the former USSR. They have a lifestyle. Oh, it's so interesting, their lifestyle. Their lifestyle, first of all, they have respect for each other. The elders have respect for the children, and the children have respect for the elders. The children, you never see children crying. They never backtalk. They just do exactly what they're told to do. They don't get punished. They do it a whole nother different way through love and nurturing instead of the threat of being punished. That is their lifestyle. They work all their lives. They play all their lives, where they play cards and they tell stories and they have fun and they have a community. They respect their elders. They fight over who is going to take care of an elder in their family. And what do? We fight over who's going to put them where, at what time, and what nursing home. That's the difference in the culture. And I think that's one of the main things that I think you can smoke all the darn cigarettes you want sometimes, but if we have people around us that nurture us and care about us, and we nurture and care about other people, I think that's way more important than the food or the exercise or whether you smoke cigarettes or not. They don't happen to smoke cigarettes. Their diet, I will talk about their diet in just a minute, but it's basically no butter, very little meat, very little salt, no sugar, no processed foods. They eat mainly a lot of vegetables, and they have this oatmeal type stuff, and then they have some fruit. That's what they eat, very simply. And you know what one of the keys is too? They eat about half as many calories as we eat. And they're active all the time. They have exercise built into their activities, into their lives. We have convenience activity out of our lives. So what we need to do is inconvenience ourselves, and we need to get out there and go exercise because it's no longer in our lives. So it's interesting. I mean, it's harder because we're not raised like that. The climate, by the way, is like between 50 and 55 degrees, and it's a mountainous area, so they have to climb up and down. They're all thin. They look down on overeating. So they're taught from the time they're really little that no, it's not proper to overeat. First of all, it's not polite. And second of all, it's not healthy, but it's built into their culture. The opposite is built into our culture. Leslie, are you sick? Leslie, are you sick? You're so thin. Are you sick? Leslie, you're so much thinner than when I saw you last time. No, I'm not. I'm the same. You just don't remember that I'm the same. I'm just thinner than most people. But we think that someone's sick if they're thin because they must be on chemotherapy or something, because that doesn't happen. If someone loses weight, what do we say? Are you sick? Are you sick? Nancy has lost 30 pounds. Are you sick, Nancy? No. Rather than say, Nancy, you look great. What did you do? We think, are you sick? Because you lost 30 pounds. See the difference? We don't say that to people that are overweight. Because people that, when we carry too much weight, we are sick, whether we know it or not. So health is normal. They have the attitude that health is normal, sickness is abnormal. And respect for elders right here. In the United States, the long-lived people, their personalities are not like mine. The people that are longest lived have low-key personalities. You probably call them type Bs. I'm probably called a type A. Not that I'm proud of that, but I probably would be called that. So they have more low-key personalities. They work lifelong. They get enough sleep every night. They exercise lifelong. They don't retire and then not work anymore. They could change. You could change, by the way, but the diet is very high in plant foods, very low in animal products, sugar, salt, processed food, and the light body weight and no smoking. Light body weight is the only factor that has been shown clinically to be absolutely correlated with longevity. None of these other factors, they sort of, put in there, but this is the only one. Light body weight. If you think about it, how many 90-year-old people do you see that are heavy or have too much weight on them? So lean body mass is very important for longevity, and that's something we can do something about. We have so much control over that. I mean, that makes sense, and we know that. Here's another myth. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. And that's what people will say to me, but, it's too late. I'm too old. I can't learn this stuff. Well, as Henry Ford says, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. You can if you have the desire to do that. You absolutely can. And right here, you have a wealth of information just out of our little office and all the information that we impart on everybody in the community. And then we have this attitude, what? That it's too late. It's just too late. Again, it's never, ever, ever, ever too late. If you can get out of bed and you can move, and you're all here, so you can't tell me that it's too late for any of you. If you can get out of bed, and if you can move, and if you can think, it's never, ever, ever too late. Can we open the doors, please? Aaron, it's really hot in here. I know it's a little bit noisy, but let's open the door. So I think that's an important attitude to get rid of. I want to show you the food. In my philosophy, in the practical work I do in teaching people how to eat better, and you have an article in your packet for those of you who don't know what it is. But the main one is this. There's 3 rules. Add, stop, and wiggle. Add and fill up on the best food for you first. Does it mean you can never have other food? No. You can be reasonable. If you do better and better, then it's better and better for you. Stop eating when your brain tells you you're full, which is before your stomach begs for mercy. And the other one is wiggle. What's wiggle? Wiggle room. Give yourself some wiggle room. Even people, like all the people who live in these cultures, they have some wiggle room once in a while. They have celebrations, but they're truly celebrations. They're not eating Thanksgiving dinner and then eating another leftover dinner and then another leftover dinner, another leftover dinner, and that sort of runs into the next week. And we're going into Christmas, and then we have all these Christmas parties. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a celebration for the long-lived people. And I can guarantee you they don't overeat. But these are the traditional diets of these long-lived cultures. And we're talking about the Abkhazians, the Vilcabamba, and I'm sorry that I mispronounced that, I'm sure, and the Hunzas. Percentage of calories from carbohydrates, and we're talking about unrefined carbohydrates, not refined carbohydrates. 65%, 74%, and 73%. The calories from fat, 20%, 15%, and 17% fat. Calories from protein, listen to this, 15%, 11%, and 10%. Not much. Calories, overall calories, this is for male, 1,900 calories, 1,800 calories, 1,900 calories. For a male, easily in the United States, gets 3,000 calories, easily. Percentage of diet from plant foods, 90%, 99% from plant foods. Percentage from animal foods, 10%, 1%, and 1%. Salt consumption, low, low, low. Sugar consumption. Sugar is deadly, just as deadly as salt. Sugar, 0, 0, 0 consumption in these cultures. They don't even know about it. Processed food consumption, 0, 0, 0. What about the incidence of obesity? 0, 0, 0. So is there a lot we can do about our lives? Absolutely. We just got to do it. We just need to start. Now is a good time. But in this culture, we can easily eat more vegetables, more fruits, more whole grains, more whole beans, raw nuts, but not too many because it has a lot of calories, and seeds, no salt, and they need to be uncooked, and fresh homemade juices is a good way of getting concentrated amount of nutrition. I have a juicing article out here. It's not in your packet because I had Katie do it at the last minute. But if you're interested in that, I have an article out here. I also out here have an article on, I wrote them, on tips that you can use during the holiday season so that you are not lured into everything that everybody else is doing as far as food goes. Okay, I want you to take out this pink sheet, go through the myths. We're not on that. 10 age-defying secrets that are listed right there. I'm just going to run through that quickly. And then you can take a look at it. Lean body mass. The diet's mostly fresh fruits and vegetables, plant foods with no coffee, no sugar, no processed, refined, or fried foods, and very little meat, butter, or salt. Does it mean you can never, ever, ever, ever? No. It just means we need to just use it for celebrations. Caloric intake between 15 and 2,000 calories. Americans commonly consume 2,500 to 4,000 calories a day. Lifelong daily exercise, especially walking, and plenty of rest. How hard is that? Can everybody walk in here? Esther, you walk, don't you? Esther's 90. How old are you, Esther? 93. Esther's my hero. Esther's my hero. So we need to get out every day and walk. Put your sneakers on and walk. Even if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I don't care what it is. Just get out there and do it. We need to walk. No smoking. Lifelong play. That means we need people to play with. Don't isolate yourself. Lifelong sense of purpose. And within that culture, the elders are held in high self-esteem with purposeful positions in the community and the family. These cultures that I talked about all have, the elders have purposeful positions in the community. They have an attitude that health is normal, sickness is abnormal. We need to have that too. And then number 10, lifelong connective relationships, respect and interaction with children, and sharing and caring for others and being cared for by others. And I already read this poem. Let's go to the next page. So we'll do a little interactive thing. Let's call forth your greatness by answering these self-explanatory questions. Number 1, don't even think about it just much, just write. Who are the key people in your life who have called forth your greatness, or in other words, inspired you to be a better person? List at least one. One person in your life, at least, that inspired you to be a great person. No cheating. He's cheating. You can't look at your other students' paper. Okay, choose one person who made the most difference in your life. Choose one person who's made the most difference in your life. If you can't decide between 1 and 2, just put 2 down. But these are important questions. What are the key people in your life? And choose one person who has made the most difference in your life. This is a more important question. Who considers you to be an inspiration in his or her life? Who considers you to be an inspiration? And if you can't think of one offhand, you can put me down. Because Sylvia, when you come into my office, you're the one that inspires me. Then number 4, name one person whom you would like to live for. Who is one person that you would like to live for? I have 2 new grandbabies that are twins. you know. And, you know, I think that doesn't count. You have to put them both down, don't you? They're twins. You can't pick one over the other.
I have twins, too.
You do?
Born March 27th.
Oh, you do? Oh.
Identical boys.
Identical boys. I have fraternal girls. So June 10th, 9th. Okay, one more. Here we go. What is your sense of purpose in life? I'm going to help you answer that. So you don't have to write anything yet, if I can find this. You see, when we think of a sense of purpose, I think oftentimes we think we have to have a sense of purpose, like we're going to save the world, or we're going to invent something that's going to save people, or we're going to be like Mother Teresa. And I think we forget how important we are. When we're born, we're at the center of a circle. And I look at my grandbabies right now, and that circle is really, really small, isn't it? They only know their own tiny little universe, and it's very, very little. But then as we get older, our circle gets bigger, but we're still the center of that circle. You know, our parents become part of that circle, and our siblings become part of that circle. And then we go to school, and so we have our peers, our teachers, our pastors, they become part of that circle. And then our friends' parents become part of that circle. And then we go to college, and then we have spouses or boyfriends and girlfriends, and then we have children. And do you see how it goes? And we have friends and friends and friends, but we're still the center of that circle. And because we're center of that circle, we influence everybody around us in that center. So your sense of purpose might not be saving the world, but your sense of purpose might be to be a good role model for all those people that are indeed looking at you and who you impact and who you affect. We don't have to be famous. I mean, who are the people that we really respect in this world? It's Sylvia. You might be famous, Sylvia, but I don't know it if you are. It's the people around us in our lives that we watch. They have determination, and they have courage, and they're bright, and that no matter what, they just get through whatever they can get through. Those are the people that inspire me, and I'm sure those are the people that inspire you. So you look at yourself in the center of that circle, and if you can be the best role model you can be, that is a sense of purpose. I'm not saying it's necessarily yours. I'm saying it could be. So I'm going to read this. When you thought I wasn't looking. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you hang my first painting on the refrigerator. And I don't know why, it makes me emotional every time I read it, so excuse me as I get through it. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you hang my first painting on the refrigerator, and I immediately wanted to paint another one. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you feed a stray cat, and I learned that it was good to be kind to animals. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you make my favorite cake for me, and I learned that the little things can be the special things in life. When you thought I wasn't looking, I heard you say a prayer, and I knew that there is a God and I could always talk to, and I learned to trust him. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you make a meal, take it to a friend who was sick, and I learned that we all have to help take care of each other. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you take care of our house and everyone in it. I learned we have to care for what we are given. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw how you handled your responsibilities even when you didn't feel good. And I learned that I would have to be responsible when I grow up. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw tears come from your eyes. I learned that sometimes things hurt, but it's okay to cry. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw that you cared, and I wanted to be everything that I could be. When I thought I wasn't looking, I learned most of life lessons that I need to know to be a good and productive person when I grow up. When you thought I wasn't looking, I looked at you and wanted to say, thanks for all the things I saw when you thought I wasn't looking. We have to get it connected in to our sense of purpose. The other day at 5:30 in the morning, my daughter Erin is living with me, working in my office right now, and she came up to, I don't know exactly what possessed her, but at 5:30 in the morning, we're both ready to go work out, because we work out before we go to work. And she hugged me and she said, Mom, you're my best friend. And could your children ever say anything beyond that? And she said, I'm so grateful for you. But you know what? Erin has become my best friend too. And when she was a teenager, trust me, I never would have said that. We were grounded together about most of her teenage years. So you can, we definitely went boom. But it's amazing how far Erin and I have come. So this is just to give you an example of what? That we all have a sense of purpose. I want you to write your sense of purpose down. What is your purpose? What is your higher purpose? Why are you here in life? I have to give you a couple minutes so you can write it down. I want you to write it down so that when you go home you can look at it again. And then you can refine it and change it. And no one will see it. I want you to look at that. And look at it. If you put it on a 3x5 card, you put it in your house, and you say, you remind yourself what your sense of purpose is, why you're here. What are the things that you have done for the people in your lives, in your circle? How do you affect your circle? And if you left tomorrow, how would the people in your circle feel? The ones closer to you would feel the most, but it sends ripples out. Ripples. Infinite amount of ripples because we affect everybody around us. We're almost done. Anybody else? Anybody need more time? What is your sense of purpose? I have one more thing to say, and then we'll have some fun.
Would it be possible to get a copy of that last poem that you read?
Yes, in fact, thank you. I was going to say that. I didn't have the foresight to make a copy of that poem for everybody. So if you want that, just call the office or come to the office and we'll be happy to do that. If you come to the office, you can have one right away. If I give it to Katie to give to you, you can have it right away. So I think it's a great one to share with other people. So one more thing. Before you were born, something was missing from the planet. When you die, you will leave the planet a better place, but something will still be missing. So with that, go home and start really taking care of yourselves. And I just want to let you know that it's my privilege and my pleasure to be able to share this information with you. And if I can plant seeds and help you create a better life for yourself, then I feel like that is my honor and my privilege. So thank you for coming tonight. I so appreciate you being here.